And so I kind of tried to emulate that in the journalism space, being on a mission, trying to get something done. And then I developed this life in California, and my then husband decided to run for governor, which was kind of out of nowhere. And then I lost my job. I became First Lady. And then my mother died, my father died, my uncle died. I lost my job, and I lost my husband. I left my husband. And that all happened in a period of 2 years, and I found myself on the floor, and hence began my journey back. Not back to myself, but back to being able to stand up, being able to move my way forward. It's where I discovered poetry in a meandering way, but not poetry like the kind of poet your friends saying, I don't buy poetry, which is a lot of people. In fact, the publisher was like, people don't buy poetry. And I'm like, this is reporter poetry. And he's like, well, what is that? I was like, well, it's what I'm doing. I'm reporting on the insides to get outside. I'm going back so I can go forward. And I'm reporting on, was trying to understand where my heartbreak started, where my sense of loneliness and loss began. And I knew it didn't begin with, the end of my marriage. I knew it must have begun somewhere long ago. And so I kind of went back in time and started writing from a different place than I had been writing before. And that brings me to the poems. But that's kind of the beginning to kind of, that's a quick way through a lot of stuff happened in my childhood that I went back and looked at. And I guess that's kind of a nice bow on, a quite tumultuous childhood and life. Yeah.
Well, your large, extended Irish Catholic family has had tiny, tiny addiction issues.
Uh-huh.
Right.
That's right.
Right. And a lot of your life...
Like very many Irish Catholic families and other families, right, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of your life was lived in reaction to other people's addiction and self-destruction, and your efforts to pump people up and to lift people up using your own life force, but because people couldn't connect with their own. Right. And they were connecting with the fame and the fortune, and then there was you. It's like little Maria, and you were like the water boy, but what you were offering was life force to try to save everybody, and none of them wanted to be saved, or none of them seemed to want to be saved.
I think people don't know how to be saved,
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
I think really more that. I think, certainly I look at my mother's generation, and they were of a generation, I'm sure many people were raised by people of that era where they didn't talk about anything. There was no culture, there was no conversation on the larger scale to talk about what does grief mean? What is the impact of grief? Why does one want to achieve? What is one looking for in achievement? I think, many Irish Catholics and many other kinds of families drink to dull that pain because, there was no such thing as grief therapy. I mean, by the time I was a little girl, my mother had lost her older brother, her sister, her other sister had an intellectual disability and was sent away. And when I was very young, then both of her brothers were assassinated. So for me, and there was no conversation. There was no stopping. So when I went back to think about that, my heart broke for my mother because I thought to myself, no one spoke to her grief. No one explained anything to her. She had no outlet for her pain. Neither did her brothers have an outlet. Neither did her mother. Her mother went to church every day, as did my mother and my father. But I had so much compassion for my mother to not be afforded nobody speaking to her and say, would you like to go to therapy? Now, I don't think she would have anyway, but I think, I've grown up in a time where when I was hurting, the option of therapy was available to me. The option of grief therapy was spoken to me about that. And so I had different opportunities than my mother, other people in my family.